Triple KO.
Welcome back to Triple KO. I am Matt McMuscles, and today with me I have two other people that represent discipline, justice, and I guess I'm commitment. I don't know.
And the American way.
And the American way. The Street Fighter American way.
Is it American? I mean, we have 2 out of 3 here is Canadian. Just saying.
That is true.
The American way.
Maximilian, Justin Wong, we are talking about, since this is a post-holiday episode, we have a very, very casual subject today, which is, of course, Volume 2 of fighting game media, I guess. We focused last time on, like, theatrical films, like your Mortal Kombats, your Jean-Claude Van Dammes, and to your lesser extent, your Dead or Alives. But there are still lots of actual anime, cartoons, what have you, series, OVAs that we really didn't touch for various reasons, because most of them are terrible. But before we start off with the Capcom Street Fighter USA cartoon, for any of the cartoons or anime specifically, do you guys have any specific memories growing up, like being into fighting games and hearing about these or seeing glimpses of them?
I mean, Street Fighter USA channel, that's a combo. Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, they're like back to back from each other. And yeah, I mean, I watched the crap out of Street Fighter USA cartoon. I thought it was obviously, it's not Street Fighter 2.
Amazing.
It's not, but it's like the USA version. But I mean, I loved it. They had some really wacky moves, very fun storylines, and for some reason, like, there was never any death in this, or I don't know.
Well, that's accurate, because there's never any death in Street Fighter. But it just seems like comes back.
It just seems like I don't know what's the word to put it, but like it just seemed like a regular. They just have a regular fight. It's like this is supposed to be a war, right? Shadaloo versus just like everyone versus Shadaloo. You would think they're trying to put them behind bars, but they just never get an opportunity to. Like, I don't know, like they just somehow escape, like Team Rocket from Pokemon.
They do,
right? It's like one of those casual episodes that like it never leads into something too serious.
So the very end of the series, we're just jumping into Street Fighter USA cartoon. The very end of the series, it's implied that Bison gets killed. And it's very bizarre. It's like all nukes in the world are about to go off, because you can do that. Bison gets the codes. Apparently, Britain has the codes for every nuclear device in the world. And Bison stole that from like Cammy's group or whatever. And just as the countdown is about to hit 1, Guile just punches Bison super hard. Bison falls into a computer terminal. And in my head, as a young lad and an adult, I'm like, oh, they're doing like a thing at the end of the Street Fighter Van Damme movie, where he hits Raul Julia and he goes into like a computer screen and explodes.
Yeah.
For some reason, the computer console becomes alive, and all of the cables wrap around Bison and pull him into the computer circuitry.
Yeah.
And things explode, and then a hard cut to Guile going, another day. Like, the sun is shining again. Bison is very dead, and that's the end of the series. It just ends right there. So that's the only death I can remember in it. But as a kid, I had no idea that show existed. I only knew about it in 2000, 2001. And it premiered in 1995. So.
Yeah, the similar production, like Darkstalkers American cartoon, as well as the Street Fighter one, I didn't really, I feel like I kind of was aware of their existence, like maybe a little bit when I was younger, but not to the degree of which they had been like memed, which we mostly can thank Mr. McMuscles over here.
You're welcome.
I honestly feel that, like, if it wasn't for a bit of that mid 2000s memery of this show, that we would have any recollection of this shit at all, because I don't even remember it being on TV.
Yeah.
So I'm sure all three of us remember seeing ads for the G.I. Joe action figures, but that was separate. It was kind of like, let's all do.
They feel the same.
They feel the same, but it wasn't like based off the cartoon. It was like the action figures came first, then they're like, oh, let's make a cartoon as well or something. So it wasn't like a connected thing. Like Double Dragon 5 on the Super Nintendo Genesis, the fighting game, the really bad one, that was created based off the cartoon of Double Dragon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
man, the cartoon was so good too.
Was it though?
Was it?
What do you mean? Everyone got new powers. I like okay. I like the quality of the animation compared to the Double Dragon 5, where their heads are kind of like pretty big. Like it's a huge difference. You can't tell that they're from one another. Like there's no like symbolic like that these are tied together.
Yeah, I mean, Double Dragon has had so many guises and different looks, and this is the story, the bad guy is this, so it doesn't really matter. It's funny that we even got talking about this because the voice cast for Double Dragon, Darkstalkers, and Street Fighter is the same voice cast. It's the exact same. It's the same guy that played Ken and Blanca in Street Fighter is the same guy that played one of the Lee brothers, and the other Lee brother is the guy that plays Guile. The guy that plays Guile played Dimitri, so on and so forth, right? So if you just listen to all three, if you just close your eyes, you'll not understand which one you're listening to because all the voices are exactly similar. It's like every British guy is the same guy. He plays Lord Raptor. He plays Cammy's Delta Red. Commander, blah blah blah, so stuff like that.
And the show very much plays out like kind of like a low quality like G.I. Joe kind of stories. Like it feels like it emulates, at least from the outsider's perspective that I have, it feels like it emulates G.I. Joe in many ways, where it's like not a super concurrent story, is really just telling individual stories of characters, but the plot overall is not progressing. It doesn't have like ensemble writing like the X-Men show did in the 90s, or at least like the beginnings of it, where they're like, yeah, there's an overarching story that happens. There's an ending to the season. The characters go to different places, type of stuff. But that kind of is like the difference of the X-Men show compared to most.
So you're very lucky that I'm here, Max, because I can confirm or deny this. 90% of the time, you are right. They are episodes of the week, and that's just whatever happened last episode. But they do occasionally recall events like, oh, when Bison got hurt in that battle, like in season 1, but mostly it's relegated to that. The only actual 2 storylines that there's 3, but they're side plots. It's Ryu is inferior to Ken. Ken is the best, and then the show stays to that canon, and Ken gets a power up when he fights Akuma, and after that, it's always reference, I'm the best. Sorry, Ryu, you didn't beat Akuma. So Ryu's like, oh, well, I'll never be as cool as Ken.
I love that episode so much just because
You've referenced it on this podcast before.
It's the first time that like you see Akuma comes in, and Ryu Ken has like their own like storyline. They're not fighting Shadaloo. And then Akuma just comes out and talks about how, he is this dude. He's the one that killed the master.
I'm that dude.
Right. And everyone, right. And Goken. And obviously now they have to fight to the death, right? Fight to the death type of thing. But it can't be 2v1. It's not dramatic battle. It has to be 1v1. All right. So then.
Yeah, because Ryu gets his arm hurt. And he's like, I can't fight. It's all up to you, Ken.
Yeah. So Ryu fights Akuma first, right? And then like Ryu gets bodied. And then Ken comes in. And all of a sudden, like they put Ryu in a bubble. Like Akuma has a power to put Ryu in a bubble, so there's no gang up fights.
Well, Akuma is always able to do that from Street Fighter Alpha on. So. Oh,
wow, okay.
Yeah. You didn't know that? Come on.
No, because he never had it as a special move, so I never seen it until the show, right? And then he was able to like earth bend, and then brought all these like these mountains to the top, so it's Ken and versus Akuma in this Mortal Kombat stage at this point, where who's gonna fall to the pit. And then they talk about the Raging Demon, but I guess the flaming Shoryuken, the flaming Shoryuken is one of the secret techniques that was like has been lost in the
banned
in the depths of time. So like they're referencing this flaming Shoryuken as like kind of it rivals the Raging Demon, and I was like, wait, what's happening here?
And the Raging Demon is just Akuma going, I want your chi and your ghost.
Yeah, it's like a Shang Tsung move.
Like, you know when Homer puts his shorts in the Stonecutter's fire and all these like ghosts come out of like the shorts? Like that's what it looks like, right? Oh.
Right.
So Akuma, when he does that, like they reference how Ken is the best, and Ryu goes like, oh man. The only other storyline that continues is Cammy and her allegiance between Bison and being Killer Bee. That's actually a reference where
Which is actually some of the most character development Street Fighter has as a story in total.
It really is. It really is. And like they go back and forth where they're like, no, there's no way. We got to eliminate her because she works for Bison. And Guile always being like, no, we can like reach her. That's not who she is. And then that's of course where the famous Cammy line comes from. Everything is lies. Everything is lies. And because she watches a VHS tape of Bison kind of like smacking her parents and just kind of grabbing her and just running away. And then Dalsum is wearing a lab coat and injecting her with shit.
This sounds like Street Fighter the movie all over again.
It really does. I mean, because it is somewhat of a sequel to the Van Damme show, but we can't spend all our time on this. The Darkstalkers cartoon.
I just need to ask if you remember this episode. Want more?
Yes,
I just need to ask.
I do. The answer is yes, I do.
Okay, because I keep trying to look for this episode, or I keep asking people, and they're like, "No, that episode doesn't exist." So it's either I dreamt it, or I don't know what, or if it's real.
Okay, so a challenge.
So so Akuma came out 2 times, right? He came out twice, right? And then the other episode, it was like Guile and Sagat teaming up and just smoking Akuma.
Guile and Bison.
They teamed up together to fight Akuma, who was like just kind of like causing this evil, right? That happened?
Yes, yeah, okay. Absolutely.
All right,
they fight inside a volcano. So again, Capcom ripped this off for the Street Fighter 4 stage, right? So they fight inside a volcano, and Guile and Bison keep having to save each other to fight Akuma. And there's a scene where Guile vertically flips up the inside wall of the volcano outwards. He's stridering out of the volcano. Yeah, he's wall jumping. That's another move you didn't know Guile can do. I think the upside down kick is in this show. I think Guile does it at some point.
You mean so like his like
like
upside
down
flips
kick.
Upside down.
Upside down kick.
I think
do they just animate it 1-to-1?
I think it's in this episode that we're mentioning in the volcano. There's a scene where Guile just is upside down with a kick, and he just flips and just goes over to Bison. Bison's like, "What the fuck is this?" Like he has never seen an attack like this.
We might need to have to watch the whole series again. You know.
I recently on my Patreon, I finished watching the whole series with a bunch of audio commentaries. It was a good time.
Matt, didn't you also have like some sort of official involvement? Didn't you like press the DVDs or something for the Street Fighter? You like made the box art something?
So I do talk to Brady, who works at Discotech, who has put out that company has put out lots of anime, including fighting game stuff. What he did let me see the packaging, the really like amazing packaging for the re-release of the show. But what I actually did, like in terms of a real live concrete thing, is I did an audio commentary with him on the Fatal Fury, the 2 Fatal Fury OVAs.
Ah, okay. All right.
So that is on the official disc.
It was close.
You were very close, though.
But yeah, talk about Darkstalkers, because I have never seen this. I actually didn't know this was part on USA Channel, because like it never showed up to me as a kid, or it never showed up as commercials. So I actually didn't know the USA cartoon actually existed for Darkstalkers, and it looked really funky too.
It looks funky. Darkstalkers makes the Street Fighter show look like it was animated by Hayao Miyazaki. It looks like a Studio Ghibli show.
That much worse?
Yes.
It's yeah. If you look at the trailer, it looks crazy.
It's Street Fighter. Maybe once or twice there'll be an off-model thing. There'll be an animation flub. Darkstalkers, it's every scene. It's every 3 seconds. Something doesn't look right. Colors are wrong. People are wearing the wrong things. And unlike Street Fighter, here's our child OC to be the fish out of water, which Street Fighter doesn't have. So there's this little kid that hangs around with Felicia.
Yeah.
And instead of him going like, he's like 12 years old or something, instead of him going like, va va voom, he's just like, I don't want to learn my wizard homework.
Oh my God.
So wait, they don't use Anita?
No.
Which is like the obvious character that they should be revolving the whole show around?
Anita is in an episode, but she's in one episode.
They're using Mighty Max clones.
It's really bad in that all it is Dimitri and Morgan hating each other but having to work together, and they're in a spaceship and Pyron is their boss, and Pyron's just like, you have to do this at the start of the show. Then at the end, he's like, you messed it up. And Dimitri and Morgan just can't get along, and the bad guys always screw themselves over. Whereas Felicia, John Talbane, the stupid kid, I forget his name, doesn't matter, and like various other Darkstalkers, they just kind of bumble into a win.
Huh.
And that's the show. It lasted only one season. Street Fighter lasted for 2 at least. And here's the thing. The Darkstalkers anime, the OVAs that look amazing. Like you've never seen a fighting game adaptation look this good. The designs are so sick. The shots, and it's like they're all so terrible for a different reason, and that nothing happens. It's just a bunch of scenes.
Like,
there's
great
no story.
looking, but it's just boring.
It's kind of boring. The last time I watched them was like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I just remember going like,
the intro's amazing.
It looks
the
so
intro's
good.
super sick.
Yeah, that's kind of what I remember, and I never actually saw it in full. But if we're talking about like between all of these like movies and shows and OVAs and stuff, I think the big one that I honestly remember, because the VHS/DVD cover of it, I think it was a VHS cover, Manga Entertainment's Tekken. And it had like the buff Kazuya just shot of him like posing.
I know the one.
Yeah, like that was in magazines like everywhere. Like they were promoting the shit out of it. And then it came out and everyone's like, yeah, it's like a D or a C kind of show. And I didn't even bother watching it because it's just boring. Like apparently nothing really happens that's interesting.
Hold on. Because you've been going through Tekken again, I would suggest you watch this if you get some time, Max, because 1, it's 45 minutes. It is not long, it's maybe an hour. It's not full length. And 2, it's silly as shit. It is really dumb.
The one we're talking about, the old Manga Entertainment one?
Yeah, manga.
Okay.
The animated motion picture, it's so silly. The voice acting is so cringe and terrible that you laugh at it. It's like, I did a video review of it like 2 years ago, and I was like, this is really silly. But if you leave your brain off the door, if you do like a watch along with Yo Video Games, and just like put that audio up for people to listen, like you guys will have a good time, because it's not long and it's so dumb. It's really bad. Yeah. In a good way.
It's like, and that's almost like, that's better, I guess, that it's like so bad it's good. Because the worst thing you can do is essentially get and I think it's later on this list, but the weird
Blood Vengeance.
Blood Vengeance, the one that came. Only reason I know it exists is because it came with a Tekken Tag Tournament 2 demo, and it also came with Tekken Tag 1 remade, which was amazing. Like it's actually one of the best games on PS3. And then you put in, the only reason you would know Blood Vengeance exists is that you stuck in the wrong Blu-ray on accident trying to play Tag 1 or Tag 2. And you're like, oh, what the shit is this? Why is a movie playing? And I get like 30 seconds into it before I'm like, what the fuck? This is so bad.
I would put forth that Blood Vengeance is worse than the anime movie. And the reason why is because when I heard that we're making a CGI Tekken animated movie, and in your head, finally, this is exactly what we want. It's like, before Advent Children was announced, you were like, yes, Advent Children. That's exactly what it should be, because these games are known for their CGI cinemas and cutscenes. And for Tekken, you're like, oh my God, this is exactly what we want. And for whatever reason, Max, Justin, if you ever see Harada, you take him aside and you say, why was this created? Why was a thing...
Blood Vengeance specifically?
Why was Blood Vengeance created? It's called Blood Vengeance. 90% of the movie is Panda, Zhao Yu, and Elisa just bumble fucking their way, meandering, and then the last 15 minutes is the sickest Kazuya, Jin, and Heihachi fight. I think we've mentioned this before. The last 15 minutes is like, just skip to the last 15 minutes. I promise you will not miss a damn thing, because it's just weird. Like, what happened? Like, it's I forget how long it is. I think it's like 1 hour, but it's exactly what you thought you wanted in your head, and they're just like, let's just make a weird thing, I guess.
I think this is that's the movie that goes like super ham with like the devil designs, right?
Yeah,
where
I think
they're
so.
like Devil Super Saiyan 6 or some shit.
I believe so. I think their designs are a little more elaborate in that last 15 minutes.
Is it because it's also rough. Like trying to promote their story mode? Because I remember like Xiao Yu and Alyssa was like the main characters of their story mode for like one of the games. Maybe that's
the reason. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because they were going super hard. They're trying to escape. They're trying to save Alyssa, and Alyssa is a robot, obviously, an android, and then she obviously gets turned on, and then she starts being in the killing mode as well. Yeah, and then backstabs them, and then gets back into normal. So it's very similar to the story mode.
Yeah, so that makes sense to me, especially since it came on the disc. It's like you can't be too mad. It's not like you actually paid money
for it. Yeah,
I think it was released standalone as a Blu-ray, but like whatever, you got like sick HD versions of like Tekken Tag 1 or 2 or whatever it was.
Yeah,
right?
It was like a 3-pack in. Yeah, it was a Tag 2 demo and also Tekken Tag 1 remake.
It was, this whole package was called Tekken Hybrid, was it not?
It was.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I'm almost assuming, because I've played Tag 1 Hybrid or whatever recently, and I had the same problem where I stuck in Blood Vengeance. I'm like, the fuck? Like,
so that actually did happen.
That's a real life story.
Man, I need to watch the motion picture though of Tekken, because the way you were describing it, I'm just like scrolling through it.
I think Justin, funny. you would laugh at this. Like it's too funny.
I mean, the timestamp you threw on.
Yes,
it's Julia chucking an axe at Heihachi, and Heihachi just bit and broke it. Like, he bit the axe, caught it while it was flying towards him, and it just snapped in half. And I'm like, wait, what? That's really an amazing movie.
Another key plot point is Li Chaolan has created a race, an army of invisible Rogerses. Raptors that can turn invisible, and everyone has to kill this army. Like, this is the shit I'm talking about.
Yeah. I just saw it. He just turned invisible. There was 2 of them. He turned invisible.
And it's like the worst. Like, the animation quality is very hentai-esque. Like, it's not. It has a certain overly clean look, and it's not a lot of detail. But like, I trust me when I say this is you get a drink, you get some friends, and it's a good time.
Kazuya's eyebrows. That's what I forgot.
What's wrong with them?
Kazuya's eyebrows are listed as 3 different actors in the credits.
What?
They are go like here. They go to 47:53, and you'll see a shot of Kazuya's face, and his eyebrows are intense. Like, it is truly impressive.
So
they're thick.
They're thick and juicy. Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
That's all I remember. His eyebrows.
So there's the Mortal Kombat is this whole other thing. I wanted us to discuss just the syndicated TV show, because this is an anomaly where it's very silly show, but there's a certain connection even early on to like WB DC cartoons, like Batman and Superman, like in the mid to late 90s, where like the designs are pretty similar. Like, it's got the square jaw, the Paul Dini square jaw and stuff like that. And it has an incredible voice cast where it has Clancy Brown, who played Lex Luthor. He plays Raiden. They have Luke Perry, R.I.P., playing MK3 Sub-Zero. You have Ron Perlman playing Stryker. If you were to tell me at some point in my life Ron Perlman would be playing Stryker in a Mortal Kombat thing, I would slap you and say that's not real. There's no way that's real.
So is this the one that was made by like Universal?
Universal? I don't know. This played on the USA USA Network.
It was collaboration with Street Fighter, and like after Street Fighter or before Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat cartoon would play.
Oh, yeah, this was the one that I worked on.
Yes, you mentioned this in a previous podcast, and I was you did some cleanup animation, right?
Yeah, I needed to see the character designs. I tutored under, when I was like literally 16 or 17, I tutored under a Universal animator. His name was Robin, and he was working on multiple different shows. And one of them was like a Land Before Time sequel.
Which one?
Something. I don't know. It was just like 7 or 22. I don't know.
The Littlefoot.
And it was also working on like 2 other shows, and he was doing cleanup on definitely the Mortal Kombat shows. So I saw like all the like Scorpion and Sub-Zero and like the character like model rigs, or not rigs, but you know the character sheets.
Turnarounds. Yeah.
Yes. So the characters would be on model. And yeah, I did some basic, not in-betweening, but because in-betweening was sent overseas. It was basic keyframe cleanup shit. And he was a keyframer, and I would learn cleanup from him. So I'm not like accredited in any way, but I would literally go to his house because he would be doing this stuff at home, just stacks of animation, like literal pages of this shit all over the place. And yeah, he'd be like, yeah, let's check out let's check out cleanup. And I'd go there for like every weekend for like 2 hours and just learn this shit. And Mortal Kombat was one of them that I was working on.
Did you have to watch every episode?
No, I never seen an episode. I've seen it in frame by frame.
Okay.
That's what I've seen.
It's a crazy, it kind of does the G.I. Joe thing as well, not nearly as bad, but there's a Mortal Kombat base, and they have like dragon jets that they get into, but there's also portals. It's also what's Shang Tsung going to do this week? Oh, this episode's more about the Ling Kuei. And they do get like a lot of MK3-ish lore at the time. And I think, I believe this is true, but it might be wrong. Quan Chi aficionados this is actually the first appearance of Quan Chi, this show. Like even before the games, even before MK4 came out, or MK Mythologies. They introduced Quan Chi here because they had his character design who's getting implemented in games, but they're like, oh, we need another character for this episode. What do you got? And they're like, oh, we got this guy. And there's lots of little neat things about the show in that way. There's some great jokes. Combat time is like what they scream every time they go to fight.
Combat time.
Yeah. So I named one of my YouTube shows Combat Time because that's how clever I am. And it's weird. It's not nearly as bad or as like off-putting as Street Fighter or the Darkstalkers cartoon, but it's still not great. Like fighting
actually has like a cohesive story.
It does. I think. I don't
know. I think the only problem for Mortal Kombat for me was like, it's again, I like Mortal Kombat.
No one dies.
Yeah, no one dies. Mortal Kombat's known to be this like fatality. Everyone just.
But it's a kid's cartoon, though.
It's a kid's cartoon, and then people just don't die.
This was the funny time frame of the 90s where like kids marketing was weird. Where they were making toys and shows
Terminator
around,
action figures.
Exactly. Predator action, Aliens action figures were like things that are like clearly not meant for kids in the same way like it would have been. I remember being shocked like 3 or 4 years ago. I went into a Walmart and they had a Call of Duty Lego set. And I was like,
nice.
What? Like, this is so... What? That's not the right audience? I guess it is. Like, I guess that makes sense because... That's just was the nature of things in the 90s was that you get these very adult themed sort of shows and fiction, and that all of a sudden they have like the kids version of it, and you get some hilarious like Predator, Alien spin-off stuff and Terminator stuff.
The worst one actually to me is Toxic Avenger, and that was a series of movies that absolutely should not be viewed by kids. It had a lot of sexual humor, a lot of gross out like stuff. But then they turned it into Toxic Crusaders, which was a Saturday morning kids cartoon show. Then they made action figures off it. Versus Terminator 2, where there was imagine a Terminator 2 cartoon. Like it's just John and the T-800 just driving. Like, and they go on adventures during their drive to Mexico or something.
Did they also make
sick?
They made like a RoboCop cartoon or some shit.
Yep.
Yeah, they did.
Like,
Everything there was a cartoon of everything. Even they had like a Battletoads cartoon as well too. They just had every game that was part of like NES and SNES. There was probably a cartoon for it.
And the actual G.I. Joe company, Hasbro or Mattel, whatever, I forget now, they had both like the same deal with Capcom and Midway. They produced G.I. Joe Mortal Kombat figures and G.I. Joe Street Fighter figures. Like they were the exact same things. And I remember the commercials, like Kano comes in on his Black Dragon Mark I boat.
Yeah.
Or like Reptile is driving the reptile monster truck or whatever it was. And even as a kid, I was like, I don't know. This isn't working on me, you know, like this is a little too silly. I think you have to be a few years younger to be like, oh yeah. But like, I knew like Mortal Kombat's a violent thing. I knew that about Terminator 2 as well. Like, this doesn't work for me. Did I buy the Terminator 2 figures? Yes, I still did, but you know, it's because they're radical.
You mentioned something that I weirdly have realized over the years, and I've thought about it a bit, and I thought about it just the other day, where it's like, kids have weirdly good taste at times.
Yeah.
Hear me out, like, because that seems like a complete polar opposite of what you normally hear. But even when we were super young, right? Even as kids, you were able to pick out the quality of things. Or like, yeah, this is clearly trash, but you don't like objectify it or like review it in your head as a kid. You just sort of accept that this is not good and other thing good. So like in the same way that we had, like, I'd say like Nintendo games and shows like we're talking about, you would realize that, oh yeah, like the actual good one is actually good. And then later on as adults, you sort of review and understand why. And all the same principles apply. Like you figure that out as a kid sort of naturally. And through word of mouth or anything. So it's like the same thing with games, where even though Nintendo is just chock full of a bunch of trash and like games that just sucked, those shitty games weren't the ones that kept in like the zeitgeist. It was the Mega Man 2s, it was the Mario Brother 3s, right? It was all like the stuff that's obviously the best shit of all time.
The Street Fighter 2010s, the final fight.
There you go.
But you know what also it is a bit is because early 90s or late 80s, early 90s marketing was a lot of, this is for older kids, but you young kids want it too. It was like, this is the cool thing to actually like. But legally, we can't sell you the full breadth of that cool thing with gore and violence and swearing. So we're going to give you this version of it. So it's a gateway drug into Terminator 2 or Predator or Alien. And then like you're a few years older, like Max, I'm going to get every Dark Horse fucking Predator and Alien comic I can.
Yeah.
And like and fighting games was like at the core of it, like Mortal Kombat especially. Like we need to sell Mortal Kombat to more kids.
Like, but we can't legally. Yeah, we accidentally had to make a rating system because of our actions. So what do we do now? Yeah. So and Mortal Kombat's a funny one too, where it's like, yeah, this game has a lot of like word of mouth and stuff like that. But even as like, I don't know, when Mortal Kombat, I might have been like 10 or some shit, maybe 9 years old. I remember specifically playing that game like, this shit sucks. Street Fighter's way more fun. Like, what are you guys talking about? Like,
that's
not able to like.
There was the wars.
Yeah, there was the wars, and because as a kid, you had like one thing.
For me, not for the arcade, I was like, oh, this is so much better than Street Fighter.
Really?
But let me finish.
Okay.
When I played the home versions, and the home versions of Mortal Kombat on everything were not great. They either looked bad or they were too slow, like the Super Nintendo version. I was like, okay, no, Street Fighter plays better. Like, this is immediately more fun. But when we saw how good the arcade looked and the blood, that like swayed me a lot. Speaking of violence, though, in the Mortal Kombat cartoon, there's a scene where UMK3 Scorpion, because this is in the UMK era, throws his harpoon. What do you think happens when the harpoon goes out?
It was, as someone that would have to, it goes like a rope around him.
Yeah, it was like a rope.
So it's
not a pierce. No way, it's a pierce.
in that cheap VHS tape that was meant to hype kids up for the movie Mortal Kombat: The Journey Begins, that has really bad animation. He does have a rope, and it does go around someone. In this cartoon, it's a chain that shoots out, and it's specifically it has like a spike and it goes around someone's neck and pulls them. I'm like, that's just as violent when you think about
violent,
it.
Yeah,
that's pretty violent. But he would pull people in and say it like, this would really piss Max off. The way he says "get over here" is so lame. He just goes like, "Get over here." Like, he does not bellow. He kind of whispers. He kind of like, he's just like whispering into you. He's like, "Get over here." It's a bad
ASMR
voice.
Started way before this time then, huh?
But yeah, like I haven't mean to watch this again. I did make like one or two like dumb compilations of this, like, you know, a decade or more ago, like 15 years ago. And I remember being kind of bad. But since this cartoon is being re-released by the end of this year, or already has, it was part of the big Mortal Kombat 30th anniversary celebrations that they re-released this, I would like to watch it again. There's also that tweet where they show a clip of everyone is infected by like a rage virus where everyone's being pissy with each other. They're not acting like themselves. And Sonya goes to like Sub-Zero, Stryker, and Liu Kang, goes, "Hey everybody, did you know back in the day Jax was the fattest kid in school?" And it turns to Jax and he's shaking and he goes, "I told you never!" And he shoots his projectile and almost kills them all. And I said to Ed Boon,
truly in character.
I says to Ed Boon, "Is this canon?" And he goes, "If we can see it with our eyes, then it must be."
Then it must
and I was like, "Mwah, amazing." He's like, "Well, you can't dispute what you said, what we just seen." We never said in any games, we never said in any Mortal Kombat story mode that Jax wasn't a little overweight as a kid. So who's to say he wasn't? You know, it's a big founding part of his character.
I feel like it's kind of a similar vibe with Cyborg in like Justice League. He was also kind of like very pissy when it comes to like making fun of him. So it's like it seems like it was like a similar thing.
There was a type of like joking sort of thing that the Mortal Kombat characters kind of had. They kind of pick at each other a little bit here and there. But this was an episode where it was like, "Oh no, we have to get rid of this like anger that we all have. We have to like work through it and stuff." So I have down here, I'm not going to have much to say about it, but there is a Toshinden anime OVA, and even as a light fan of Toshinden
I never
back in the day, I was like, Toshinden has a story enough to even make a thing out of, and it's a very basic show. It's actually directed by Masami Obari, who did the Fatal Fury animes, and SNK brought back for that little animated intro that they did for King of Fighters 15. So he directed this, and it's just, this one's kind of nothing. It's just basically the main character, AJ, just going, where's my brother, Sho? Why has he done this? Why is he killing people? And then it's just, 45 minutes to an hour of him going, where's my brother? Gotta find my brother. And now I have to beat my brother. And that's it.
Dude, the art style of the show is like absolutely quintessential 90s anime.
Yes. It is, but it's even slightly worse because unlike Fatal Fury, which is very colorful and like a little bombastic, this is like desaturated. It is very 90s, like it was kind of trending there, but because the Fatal Fury animes were like in 93, I think this is like 96 or 97. It's based on Toshinden 2, and it just kind of, it looks a little boring to me, like visually at least. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got for Toshinden anime.
Uncut version. I wonder what was the big difference between
try to guess what a fighting game anime had that needed to be cut out.
So Sophia is deleted.
Her shower scene is deleted.
Oh, she has a shower scene?
I didn't even know she had a shower scene.
Chun-Li, Mai Shiranui, and Sophia all had shower scenes in their respective animes. Amazing.
That makes sense. They need to shower.
If there is a Street Fighter 6, if there is a Street Fighter 6 anime or movie, and if there is not like some type of Jamie shower scene, I will be pissed.
There needs to be a Blanca
all
shower
of his hair scene. I want to see, a Blanca shower. Zangief.
I mean, is Zangief in Street Fighter 6? We haven't seen him yet.
It's true. He might not be. That's perfectly fine. Do any of you guys ever even heard? All I ever saw was the VHS cover in EGM of Samurai Showdown, the motion picture.
No. I didn't even know they made a movie. It makes sense that they made a movie.
I need to see.
No, nothing at all.
I'm looking at this art style, and it is not. Number one, it looks really bad.
It does.
Number two, no, none of this looks familiar in any way at all.
This looks like a USA movie. It doesn't even look like Japanese animation.
The art style for this show looks rough, like even worse than
movie. It's a movie.
It's a movie.
Yeah,
it looks
bad.
It looks worse than what we just saw with Toshinden. To be honest, like Toshinden looks like high quality art.
Yeah, this reminds me of like USA cartoons. It doesn't seem like it's animated by like a Japanese studio. At least
this is also really rough in terms of its dub. It's like the worst 90s dub. Like every bad dub you've ever heard, like this has everyone. It's got everything. Everyone is here. That was like a bad dub actor.
I like the fact that I guess one thing is they kept the rage in, so it's kind of like they actually kept the game mechanic of like them turning red, getting angry. I guess Harmar is the one that like wields it, at least from me skimming through it. So that's cool. But everything else looks really weird. Like Galfer doesn't look like Galfer. Tam looks very scrawny, and he's not really big. Earthquake's like the same size as like other people. But I think, I mean, this is rough for sure. Another
weird thing that they do is, Amakusa, or as this show calls him, Amaksa.
Okay, Amaksa.
In the games, he is an effeminate looking Japanese man. Like, he's got that look to him. A lot of fighting games do. In this thing, they did not give a fuck, and they're like, no, he's a girl. He must be a girl. The dub says. I don't know if the Japanese version does this, but they're just like she. And I'm not sure if that was due to a poor translation or they just decided to do it, but it's like, it is not aged well for them not doing any research. Because as far as I know, certain Samurai Shodown characters are loosely based on real historical figures.
Yeah.
And Amakusa is one of them, I read. So I don't know like what the deal with all the details on there, but like I watched this like maybe in 2001, and I was like, this is bad. Like it's bad in the same way Tekken is kind of bad, the anime movie, where it's just silly and shitty and you can kind of laugh at it. But Sam Show is such a cool, unique franchise that it sucks that they were given like a bad adaptation, Yeah.
And it's funny that I'm noticing now, just between all of these, it seems like there's just an amount of wiggle room between fighting game rosters naturally like melding themselves into an OVA or a show in some way that must be easy and cheap. Right, because all of these like come across as that. Like, I don't think we've had one yet that is like the shining beacon pinnacle of like the high quality, like representation from the show. No, like all of them come across in some unique way of being shitty and cheap. That we're just trying to like throw this out and make a quick buck on the immediate popularity of some of these franchises, to the point where it's like, what immediate popularity were we getting out of Toshinden and stuff like that? Like, I have so many questions how this came to be.
In the early days, I think, actually, not having watched a whole lot of it, maybe like 12 episodes, but Street Fighter 2 V, Street Fighter 2 Victory.
And that was the one I was about to say.
I think it's the one where, listen, a lot of this stuff is different. Let's take a slightly different route. It's basically Street Fighter Alpha before Street Fighter Alpha. It's just Ryu and Ken learning about the world. They've been training forever, and now they're going out. And they meet Street Fighters that they shouldn't meet yet. Like, they get their asses handed to them by Guile in a bar, right? And there's very different interpretations. I think I might have mentioned this before, but Charlie shows up here, but he's a completely different guy. He's not a fighter. He's just like a dorky a salary man with a brown beard. So, but from this lasted something like 60 episodes, I think. Like, it's quite a few. And I think it was a success. And when you look at the art, it's definitely slightly different and slightly cheaper, but it's very similar to Street Fighter, the animated anime movie that we talked about last time on an episode like this.
It's like artistically trying to hit like a lower budget version of that movie. I see what you mean.
Yeah, so, it wasn't like a massive hit. I think it was another manga entertainment release, just like the movie was. and I haven't sat down and watched a whole lot of it, but I'm intrigued to like, I don't know, go through a bunch of it at least and see like how it really holds up. Like Fei Long is in this. It's like, what? How is Fei Long in this?
Yeah, I had friends that told me about 2V and they said it was like actually good. Like I've had some friends tell me, but it's like long. Like it. Yeah. Of all these shows, I think it was the only one that probably like weathered the test of time than any of them. Because most of these shows were like either one season or an OVA, done.
One and done. Yeah.
Street Fighter the USA cartoon, I guess, had what, 2 seasons?
It had 2 seasons, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like 24 episodes in total. So.
I was already turned off when watching it because of Ryu have the haircut.
It makes him look more like makes him look like another fighting game character. Like it makes him look like Akira or you know, like a Virtua Fighter character. Speaking of which, if any one fighting game was to not get an anime or an adaptation, I mean, that's fine.
VF.
It is VF. Max, or maybe just you can answer this. What is Virtua Fighter's story as far as you can remember?
Okay, so from what I recall, and I was really into Virtua Fighter on the Sega Saturn, you essentially get Akira, and he goes to this like faraway land. And in the show, he has a brother. So he essentially has to meet up. I'm sorry, in the story, he has a brother. So he essentially has to meet up with his brother. And they get to this kingdom. And at the end of the kingdom is a princess that they both have to save. And you find out it's like a mushroom kingdom of some kind. And then, you know, you have to find this guy named Bowser. And they have to take Bowser out to save the princess of the Mushroom Kingdom.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
like, what happened?
It's an interesting story. It's very dynamic. It goes to a lot of different places. It's you know, I don't like people talking shit about VF stories, so that's all I got to say about that.
Moving on. The only thing I know about Virtua Fighter story is that there's a world fighting tournament and some bad guys control it. And Doral is an experiment, and they kidnap Sarah at some point. And Akira and Wolf have a rivalry. That's all I know.
If there's one thing that I hope happens, like Virtua Fighter almost has a level of purity to it.
Yes, it does.
Between the entire history all the way until like Ultimate Showdown, the latest release, where they don't do this shit, where they have not gone the story route, where there's like barely even any descriptions that there's a tournament of some kind, or like what is even happening between in the actual game. I think there's 0. In the instruction manual, there's like a sentence, maybe one sentence, like in one game in like a VF 1.5 remix or something like that. Yeah. Virtua Fighter is like, we have created a virtual world. We are Sega. These characters exist in a polygonal virtual world. They will fight each other, and you will experience virtual fighting. Play the game, like, and we will create gameplay that you will like, not story. Like, and the VF is like one of the last pure bastion fighting game franchises, and I truly hope, right, because obviously they tried with this, I truly hope that stays the same if Virtua Fighter does come back in the future. We know we have lost our way. If Virtua Fighter gets a VF6 and it's got a fucking story mode, bro, we have lost our way.
See, I almost want it just to laugh at it and be like, look how wrong Max was. But I actually do agree with you. I mean, like, it's kind of cool that like we never really did this. People get endings sometimes, and it's a fun little moment in their life. But that's all it is, because you should get something, right? Instead of just replays of your last couple of hits. Like, I remember Virtua Fighter 3 had something. You get a little clip, or maybe I'm just thinking of the intro.
At the end of VF3, you literally get like something wild. You get it's not just, it's like a shot of like Jeffrey McWild wrestling a shark or something.
That's in the intro.
Is that the intro? Like there's there's like a photo or something, like a CG portrait.
Yeah, a CG portrait. I think
that's about it. Yeah. That's as much as you're gonna get. Like, in very Sega-y, like Jackie is driving around like a Ferrari that looks like it's from Outrun or some shit like that. Like that's about all you get story wise. And I mean, that's like, and that once once again, Virtua Fighter has a unique purity where every fighting game has tried to inject a story of some kind over the years, and has done varying levels of success, right, all the way till this day, where now like the story is the big running thing that's like running the narrative of the game, the roster, like all this shit. Virtua Fighter just never has been that. So it's weird because
if they don't want to sell the game to super casual people that need single player stories or content, then that's fine. And if they do try, but you can't have super casual people playing Virtua Fighter. Like the gameplay just doesn't match up, and we don't want them to change the gameplay.
It did like back in the day. Like we're talking like PS2 era. VF4 was one of like the best selling fighting games of that generation. But it was chock full of like a shit ton of content. Like the amount of things you could do was plentiful. It looked significantly better than the majority of fighting games out there at the time, and it offered gameplay that was. So it's like, yeah, you don't have to like go into this like story thing. You can just offer a bunch of fun shit that your characters can do in customization and stuff.
Yeah, I always forget that Virtua Fighter 4 sold like 500,000 copies or something like that on the PS2.
Yeah, it was a lot. At that time, it was like before Tekken 5 was even out. And it was like, oh yeah, what's the best fighting game? Is it Tekken or Virtua Fighter? And it's like Virtua Fighter is the king.
Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. Like I want a big NetherRealm style story mode for Virtua Fighter. It's but like nothing happens in it. Imagine.
Yeah, that just leads me to more thinking like, VF is the perfect free to play game. It really is.
It really is.
It's like, it's just all about just the combat and the fighting. You don't have to worry about any of the story stuff. And it's just about customization. It literally is like the bastion of Virtua Fighter.
I think if you really wanted to do anything, you would have some type of like little archive section where it has little blurbs, like you unlock little sentences about a character's what that character did in their life and what happened in other Virtua Fighters. Like then Jackie won the 3rd tournament, or Wolf did this, and like that's it. Because anything else is just going to be weird. Plus, then they have to hire actual good voice actors. And Virtua Fighter's never been about that.
Virtua Fighter's been using the same swoosh and whoosh sound effects since 1992 or some shit.
I win!
I win!
Okay, so for the Virtua Fighter anime, if you're wondering what it entails, it's about our goofy hero, Akira Yuki, and he has to train for the upcoming fighting tournament. So he has to have a bunch of kooky adventures, eating hot dogs.
Adventures. Is that his favorite food?
Yeah, I think so. He enters a hot dog eating contest. Oh no, he fell over, so his hands grabbed the breasts of Sarah Bryan. Oh my God. This is exactly Virtua Fighter to me.
This is where we want our characters to go. This is what I've been waiting for.
So I think it's actually quite a few episodes. I think it's like maybe like 20 or something. I forget how much. I've watched 2 episodes ever. And I think going into what Max said, it's like, I don't do this. I don't like Virtua Fighter for this stuff. And I think that was my mindset back then. It's like, I don't want to see my pure characters besmirched by all this buffoonery. Like, it's just not what I'll watch other characters do it in like Fatal Fury or Street Fighter, but no, not here. You can't do this, But I guess Sega didn't really have a lot of say in these scripts.
Bro, Dorao looks like he is like Ultron, bro. Like the way he looks like in this anime, he just looks like Ultron from like way back in the day. Pretty funny.
Yeah, so, Doral is like the most. What is it?
What is it?
This was a tech demo character. It's like fighting Polygon Man. Oh God, they did that. I just realized they did that in PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale. And never mind, I'll shut up now.
No, I think I think you're right. It's a tech demo where it's like, hey, can we like create a texture that kind of looks like the T1000? We can put that in the game.
Oh God,
that's
do it.
So, so we have like a few more that I want to give a shout out. Art of Fighting we have to beat Geese Howard, right? That's all Art of Fighting is. So it's very much Fatal Fury. For whatever reason, the Art of Fight OVA is 45 minutes of Rio and Robert going, we have no money. And we need to do odd jobs we need to find lost cats. And Robert's like, oh, Rio, you're such an idiot. And he's like, I'm Rio.
Okay, but Robert looks like Robert.
He does.
Rio?
He has a bit of money.
Rio has
this
like Mel
weird
Gibson from Lethal Weapon.
I'm like, who is this character?
He's got dark brown hair, which he never had even in Art of Fighting 1. It's not like a Ryu thing from Street Fighter 1 where he had weird red hair for a little bit. And he's wearing this weird brown jacket over his gi.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, is this Rio?
Yeah, and I think Yuri gets kidnapped. King is in a helicopter, and then they beat up Mr. Big at the end. And that's the Art of Fighting OVA. It is literally the most superfluous of all the SNK ones. I can kind of understand doing a Samurai Showdown one, but doing an Art of Fighting one is just you did not need to save the money. I'd rather keep the free. You know,
I think in a situation like this, when this OVA existed, if I had a friend that was like, you know, hey, we got some anime, you want to tape it, and I would go home and tape it, I would not sacrifice the length of tape. I would not put that on my anime mixtape of just like, you know, bootleg shit. It would not have a space on there.
Oh no, this is kind of terrible.
It's pretty bad. I scrolled through it and I feel like I wasted my time.
Like I just see Mr. Big just holding Yuri like literally 90% of the film.
I remember in the early 2000s going, I'm going to make a supercut and put it on the YouTube about this one. And I watched it and I was like, there's nothing here. There's silly shit, but there's not enough because A, it's so brief. Yeah. And two, there's a long expanses of nothing really funny happening and stuff. I think for an Evo one year, I got contacted like, hey, we're running like a Art of Fighting side tourney. Can you make like a little intro? And I kind of tried to do it, but then like it didn't happen. And I was just like, there's nothing to do here. I remember taking clips of Rio doing something and I was like, oh, this isn't going to work. There's not enough because they wanted something like the Street Fighter stupidity montages that he used to make. So yeah, Art of Fighting, a little rough. You know what's also a little rough? Do you guys remember or know what King of Fighters Destiny was?
Mm-mm.
This was the free-to-watch show on YouTube that Max is making a face for.
I forgot about this existing. Holy shit.
This is like 27 episodes.
27 episodes.
But they're 8 minutes long, and it was free to watch on YouTube. SNK partnered with like a Chinese company, I believe, like a Chinese animation studio, and you were watching pachinko level cutscenes of characters. This is where there's a scene where Jeff Bogard is giving little baby Terry Bogard his very first Fatal Fury hat for his birthday. And Geese shows up in their house in suburbia in the middle of like a suburb with like open streets and kids playing. And it's at night, and they proceed to have a Dragon Ball Z battle in the sky.
And then like basketball hoops and shit, and there's like a Prius parked outside. What the hell?
And that's a flashback, but they're proceeding to have like KOF 94, 95, I think. And it's every character kind of meeting up, getting the invitation, and then Rugal is doing something. When I say these are 15 to 20 minute episodes, but there's 8 minutes of animation because the start of it is a super long intro and the end is like super long credits. Here's what's going to happen next time. Like there's, I think, almost more other stuff other than the actual episode itself. This was free though. So that's why there's so much advertising.
But you know, I mean, they're doing something right. They got 3.5 million views on watching this thing right here.
This is a couple of years old. This is it was free.
Yeah, and then I guess because it's free, they're also like advertising like the games within the show itself. Like I'm looking at they're at the airport, like the Kyo's Team Kyo, Goro Diamond, and Benimaru, and you just see King of Fighters 14 advertisement like on the billboards and everything. Like it's just subtle like advertising, just trying to get you to buy the game. Your mind just bent over like, hey, you want to buy King of Fighters 14?
King of Fighters 14, got to buy it, buy.
Yeah, that's a little weird. Like seeing character advertisements in their own fiction for like video games featuring them. Yeah, that's a little.
In the old Fatal Fury animes in the 90s, it was like Max has been throwing around the word pure. It was very pure. After the credits, there would just be big white text that say, buy Fatal Fury Special on Neo Geo. Like, but it was after the show had finished. So that's
the size of it. It's the size of the cartridge.
It's bigger than your TV. The other thing that really disturbs me about the show is that every character is close to kind of how they look like, but since there's CG or like, they're all CG, they're all slightly off. So Terry has this weird like baby face, but he has a 5 o'clock shadow sometimes. There's a very like SFM like ripping off models from somewhere and using them for other purposes on other video sharing sites. And every character just is like, it's an uncanny valley feeling, which is weird considering they're already fictional characters, you know?
Yeah, so, it's like everything about it. You feel uncomfortable looking at all of it.
Yes, exactly. Uncomfortable. And not like, and it's bad too. Like I watched all of it. Like when it was new, like all the episodes were out, I just watched all of it, and it was hard, man, because most of it is nothing. Most of it is just characters talking or thinking about stuff that happened in the past. Rugal shows up for like a little bit, talks, and then like by the end, because altogether it's like 3 hours of animation. I think maybe even less than that. Actually, that's probably being generous. So it was a rough time. I thought in my head this was going to be like KOF Another Day. If you remember this was like the little anime 15-minute bonus you would get in King of Fighters Maximum Impact 2. So it was about Rock.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Was it CG as well or no?
No, it was standard. It was like 2000s looking anime.
I don't think I saw it then.
Yeah, I think it was like a bonus in the Japanese version or something. I think fans needed to translate it. But it was just called KOF Another Day. It's Max. Max and Jesse, you probably love this. The story starts with Terry on the couch, not contributing, and saying, "This is Mark of the Wolf, Terry, by the way."
Okay.
And he goes, "Rock, we're out of milk." And Rock goes outside to buy milk and runs into other KOF characters, has fights and beefs. And then he like comes back and Terry's like, "You forgot the milk." Cut to credits.
Cut the credits.
Yeah, see, it's amazing.
Just happily just walk into other KOF characters on the way to the supermarket, right? You know, a small world. What a small world.
It's literally assist me level humor. That's why I can't handle it. Where it's like the show starts, we're gonna go out and get tacos, epic adventure. They come back, where are the tacos? Like that's the whole fucking story.
It's called Another Day, so I guess this is like what happens in the day of like a life of a QF. All it really says is that it's a hard knock life in Southtown where you can't even go buy fucking milk.
Yeah.
And like Swade Mira shows up and starts fighting you or whatever. Or Billy Kane, you know, so I think Another Day was kind of like interesting. I got really hyped up when I heard about it. I was like, oh, it's a brand new anime, but it's basically like a little 15-minute like segue more than anything. So I think one we can wrap up on is probably the most forgettable thing considering the size of like the franchise and the numbered entry it was attached to. But I actually made I asked on Twitter, like, were these two different things? Can someone help me figure this out? What was Street Fighter 4, The Ties That Bind? Like, was that a movie or was that, where did you get that? Like, what was it attached to?
It was part of the game,
you guys
right?
remember about this?
I can go grab it. I think I'm looking at it. I don't know. I'd have to go check, but it came with like the collector's edition of Street Fighter 4.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So it had like, it was a DVD, a bonus disc attach on.
Mm-hmm.
So what I got was the Street Fighter 25th anniversary box thing that had Cross Tekken, Ultra Street Fighter 4, or maybe just Street Fighter 4 AE, and like the cartoon, the USA cartoon. It was a big commemorative box with all this swag in it, like a Ryu headband. This was not the collector's edition of Street Fighter 4, but I think you are right that you got the ties that bind on an extra disc.
Yeah, it should be, because I remember watching it after like getting like buying a game, and I just remember that it's like super. This is like Sea Viper, like pretty much Sea Viper comes out here. She's like causing trouble and everything. You fight Seth at the end. So
yeah, Ryu fights, and then Guile and Chun-Li just kind of watch. Now the thing with this is when you watch it again, you're like, oh my god, this Street Fighter 4 anime clips or endings. That quality though, of it looking kind of soft and like, again, like not that colorful. It's kind of like a bland color palette. Yeah. And it's just characters staring at each other, not doing anything.
Here's the collector's edition box.
Yep.
And the only reason this isn't the normal one is because it's not the normal one. It's got the not for resale on the back. So that means it came with like the steel book or whatever the heck it was when Street Fighter 4 came out, because this looks like the normal one. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's quite literally collector's edition bonus disc, and it literally says at the bottom Street Fighter 4 the ties that bind. Right at the bottom of the disc. So that's the only, I think this was how I saw it. I literally stuck the DVD in my Xbox 360. I got 15 minutes in before I fast forwarded through the whole goddamn thing, and that was it, man.
You didn't like the last fight? The last fight was, Seth.
What is the last fight again? Hold on.
Ryu versus Seth.
Ryu versus Seth.
That's it.
I need to. The only fight I remember was Sea Viper versus Cammy.
Yeah, I remember that.
That one. Yeah, that was like a wash.
It's like a wash. Like Viper like whoops the shit out of Cammy or some shit.
Yep.
So there was this, right? And it was just the core Street Fighter 4 story. That was it. But then later on, I forget how this was distributed. They had when Super or whatever came out, like a year or two after that, they're like, here's another anime. I guess Ono really needed to spend that budget based on Jury. And it was just called the Jury OVA.
I don't remember that one, actually, yeah.
I don't think it came in anything. I think it was either in a Japanese like exclusive or something. I don't know how this was distributed. I watched it on YouTube, and it's like even shorter than this. It's like 40 minutes, and it's basically Jury kills a shitload of people in like a crowded area. She just nukes the entire area with like her essence or like fighting instinct. And just a bunch of people blow up, and then Guile and Chun-Li are going like, what the fuck? And then they fight Jury at the end. Jury beats them or escapes, and that's the movie.
Yeah, I never seen this movie. I actually never seen this movie, yeah.
It has Jury in it, so 2 thumbs up. 2 feet up, sorry.
Yeah,
2 toes up.
And I don't even think Super Street Fighter 4, which is where she was introduced, even had a collector's edition of some kind. So that was Japanese only?
Maybe it could be Japan box only, because Japan... Capcom usually gets 90% of the merch, and while we only get 10% of the merch in like North America, so it's quite possible that is maybe a Japanese exclusive.
And I see what they were doing. They were essentially like, let's hire this anime house, right? This production house to make us our animated movie, and they'll also make our story cutscenes or our arcade mode cutscenes, which is essentially how it worked. There was like, I think in Street Fighter 4 or either Super, there was literally like anime intros for the characters and also an anime outro. So they kind of like struck a deal with them, it looks like. Were any of them high quality? No. Like, and it's honestly one of the things that has aged the least well in Street Fighter 4 is how rough the animation is and the character designs in some of the animated sequences. It's like, ugh, who is this guy? That's supposed to be Ryu? Ugh.
I remember that in Ultra Street Fighter 4, because it was a couple years away, that those were more high quality. Because I was playing on the PC version not too long ago, like a couple months ago, and I picked Poison, and I was like, wow, that doesn't look too bad. And then I went back to like Abel, who had like, was there at launch, and I was like, that looks way worse. Yep. So because they only had to do intros for like 4 extra characters years after, I don't remember if Yun or Yang or Oni had anime intros. I'm assuming they must have if they gave them to
It sounds
Poison and
familiar.
Hugo.
I think Yin and Yang. I remember like slightly that Yin and Yang have one, but I don't remember Oni.
Yeah. So like we can basically wrap up, but I wanted to ask: is there any like growing up or even now? Has there ever been like an idea you had or like a desire to be like, oh, it'd be so cool if they actually did this and made like whatever it may be, a movie, a series, or like a little animated special? Oh, I want to know what Justin's is then. He's very excited.
X-Men versus Street Fighter.
Holy shit.
Just because X-Men, the cartoon, was so popular and Street Fighter was also popular, and they released the pretty much kind of like just the game, and then they have the good endings as well too, with like Ryu and Cyclops, Wolverine, and all the other Street Fighters working with each other, Chun-Li and Rogue. They had such great endings. So them having like kind of like even a X-Men Street Fighter USA channel like type of cartoon, I would have loved it. I would have loved the crap out of that.
That would be cool. And he keep it a bit more focused on like X-Men and Street Fighter instead of Marvel versus Capcom, which can get a bit like muddy. I was honestly really hoping that the Netflix Tekken anime that just came out, which is another one we can lump on this list, right?
Yeah.
Tekken, Blood Vengeance, Bloody
Bloodline
Sunday,
Tekken 3
Tekken 3 anime, right?
But with Leroy in it.
I didn't hear enough positive impressions for me to actually watch it. I didn't hear enough that was like, it's amazing or like, it's super cool. Like everyone said the fighting is neat because they do moves from the scenes. They do moves from the game. And I'm like,
that
it.
Seems you watch the fight scenes.
Like, cool, I guess.
The last time we talked about it, I had not finished it and I switched over to subs, and I did like for the last 2 episodes. So I did enjoy that a bit more. It is a thing that absolutely needs another season because nothing happened. Like it was literally what happened is that Jin trained for 2 episodes and then beat Ogre, and that's it. Now his fight against Ogre, like the last 2 episodes, have some of the best fighting I've seen in a fighting game adaptation. Like it was really sick. That's what 3D animation can allow you to do. All these cool angles that would otherwise be really hard. Blah blah blah. But everything in between there's zero story. There's zero interesting things happening. So a lot of people said, well, we don't know if this is going to get picked up. It's only 6 episodes. It's not
short,
long.
super short.
Yeah, and each episode is what, like 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, 20 minutes.
No, it's 24 minutes, I think. You know, it's like standard length. If another season came out and said, let's flesh out these characters, like they have a story going on for King, but they just basically hint at it. Oh, he got brainwashed. Oh, someone did that. Who did that? We never find out. So there's all these story threads, and I'm like, these character designs, they're okay. They're not my favorite, but I like the way that character looks and that character looks. I don't know why they do this weird sliced shadow on their foreheads. It's very distracting, but it was overall all right. Like I would, I didn't regret watching it. So I guess
so it's not as bad as like,
I think it's good. I like Tekken stuff. Yeah, it's definitely way better just because the fight scene is good. I mean, you really kind of watch this type of shows for the fight scenes, and that's how I watched it. I watched it because I like the fight scenes and I wanted to see like what moves that I can see that they did from the Tekken anime, with the Tekken game, and that's like kind of that's kind of what hypes me up.
It's very Mortal Kombat 1995 movie where you're like, do the move, do the move. Yeah. Why isn't he doing his moves?
To sort of coattail the whole like, man, they just made an OVA / show out of every fighting game. That's also not included in here. I remember there being a Power Stone OVA or something.
It was an anime series. It was a whole series.
And I would like to think that Rival Schools also did too, but that was just the big long anime intro, I think.
The dating, the visual novel.
Maybe
on the bonus disc or something.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking about.
Oh God. Now that you say that, I would love a Rival Schools, like, because the high school genre in anime is like a massive one.
Yes.
But imagine it was just Rival Schools, and that's a You didn't say it expressly, but I'm gonna say it's your idea.
Yeah,
to do that.
My Hero Macadamia Nut is like a big thing, like, and that echoes a very similar sort of like characters discovering their powers, and they're in a school, and you know, kind of like Rival Schools is just doing this shit in like the mid '90s and stuff. Like, it feels pretty natural that would just work out.
Yeah, for me, an animated movie, Capcom versus SNK. Just classic, at like 2000, 2001, just make like a Bison and Rugal team up. Here's a tournament. Yeah. Like that's, I don't even care if it's good. I'd rather actually it be bad, but I want it to have happened and to experience it. And I want it to be like, have a really bad dub too. That's essential.
You have to get China to do it because they already made those like old school like comic books, right? So they probably could make a whole anime about it. Just make no sense on it too.
You know what my suggestion is, and I think I would also if I had any resemblance of power over its creation, I would contact Mr. Matthew McMuscles, and we would make our Killer Instinct.
Ooh, that would be
Killer Instinct like shorts. That would be amazing.
Dude, it has to look like Reboot. It has to look like a CGI cartoon from the 1990s.
Like the show fly. Reboot?
No, we got to make it happen. So from now on,
the only way we make it happen is that it looks like, you know, it has to have a distinct visual style, or it's live action, motherfucker. It's one or the other. There's no in between.
Max as Jago.
They're playing like Felicia versus Bishamon, and if Bishamon ends with a certain move, you just cut Felicia in half.
Did you make sure to see Orchid's thong? Here's 30 more chances as she spins around.
See, you've got the Batgirl shirt on, and you're wearing a Robin t-shirt.
Batgirl and Robin to your Batman.
And Turtles is like Star Wars in the Star Wars is a 70s thing that ran into the 80s. Turtles started in the 80s, but really grew in the 90s.